Hi, we're Blake and Brittany.
And we are the force behind Average Family Abroad.
Force. Wow, cool. Yes, we've lived in southern Ecuador now for almost 5 years. And on today's video, we're going to talk about
Deepest doubts that assail us in moments of weakness or fear or skepticism.
Yeah. So, as we know, moving abroad is a huge thing to do. It's not something small and not something to be taken lightly.
And especially when you have children that you're moving into a new reality, you feel the weight of that sometimes, of a decision you've made on behalf of those helpless individuals. So, there's no way that they're not coming out of this or remaining in this unchanged. And so you wonder, are the changes for the better? What is this going to impact the trajectory of their lives? There's significant
definitely.
considerations.
It's definitely going to affect the trajectory of their lives.
Well, yes, but you could move back after a year, and
Sure.
It's just lots of.
But no question, any major thing you do, and really anything you do in life, comes with its doubts.
Yeah, new job, move across town,
So,
for that matter, change of just about anything.
Yep.
And of course, this was no different. Even though we were very certain we were doing the right thing, we were very sure of our path, sure that we were called to live here.
Yep.
But that
all the doors
mean
opened up like they were supposed to open.
Yeah,
for us
we always
to get
said we
here.
wouldn't force the doors open, but if they opened, we'd step through them. But despite all of that, of course, there are moments where like, oh, have we done the right thing? Is this what's going to happen to our family kind of things? I'd probably mean more than Blake because I'm just more emotional in general, I think. But thankfully, usually one of us in those they're very infrequent moments and less frequent as time goes on. But very few moments where we both have been like, huh. Is this right? So, but we want to be fully transparent and authentic on this channel. And so it does seem like we should share what some of those doubts are that we still do think about on occasion. So again, just as with any major change. So the first one that I kind of identified was, and this one I think is even less and less relevant as time goes on, but there's this fear that the novelty would kind of wear off of doing this new, cool, exciting thing, and we would just be here. And wouldn't it be novel, and maybe it would feel kind of hollow or something. I don't know. What would you say to that?
I don't know if I necessarily felt this one the same.
Yeah, these are
but
very
but I understand it. Yeah, that our first year here in particular was very novel.
Very novel. Yeah.
Yes, I mean getting
everything was novel.
Everything was novel. Everything was new. I didn't work that first year.
The kids were homeschooled, and so our days were, way less driven by kind of routine. Everything was an adventure. It felt like.
Sure, everything was an adventure, and now everything is routine and normal, right?
Yeah.
Like
people are always surprised. They're like, "Well, what do you do in your life in Ecuador?" It's like, "Well, we do homework. Oh, we do sports practice. We, like normal things." But that first year was very different. And there was a chance that the shine would have worn off that, and it wouldn't be new and special and exciting, and it would just be.
And there are things and times, right, where you're, where I think, well, like where our road is rainy season is very hard on our road
up to our house,
and it becomes a chore. And so I definitely have moments where like, man, why didn't I just buy a house in town?
Yeah, it's definitely not novel. Those first few times you drive up, like, wow, this is incredible. And
but when you do it 2, 3, 4 times a day, it definitely gets old. So
yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, something practical and measurable like that, or bigger things. And just, I mean, it was exciting when we first moved here. Everyone, we were new in town here, so that was cool. People were so interested in us. Then that's neat. And also back in the United States, people were very curious about our lives and stuff. And
it was one of the reasons we started this channel.
Yeah, but now it's just old news. So it's not novel. Yeah. However, it's not any less satisfactory. We have found, despite the novelty kind of wearing off, like it's nice just to settle into life. And
I think you find that with anything new, right? Any experience, any big change, move, job change. There's that sense in the beginning, and it just suddenly it becomes routine, that honeymoon phase, right?
Yeah.
And then things become routine or normalized to some extent. And so, but yeah, there's always that because this is so much different and we are so much further away than our old life. It's not like we can just turn around and go
No,
back.
if the novelty wore off and we were unsatisfied, we would be kind of stuck. It would be a tremendous expense to start over again and even to get ourselves to the United States or a different country, much less, start over with life. So,
Yep.
so that's kind of where I guess that doubt would come from. But thankfully, that's really not an issue. That's not one that
Yeah.
phases me. We've just really settled into life here. So, um,
Okay. So number two, fear that we've led our kids into a bad situation, right? And so this one is more of um, there's a lot of unknowns, right? Moving here, and the more that we've been here, the longer that we've been here, right? We've grown so much more comfortable, but not unaware either, right? We're not our guard, especially my guard, is not down ever.
but it wasn't in the United States either. It's
No,
just who you
exactly.
are.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So,
that's the curse of my career and everything else. But yeah, but that fear, right? That because we've seen plenty of comments and stuff like that,
yeah, well,
and
like if something horrible happens to the kids, like, oh, if only we had. And
yeah,
again, that can be applied to pretty much any horrible situation in any reality anywhere. But you have that, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like worst case scenarios if the kids go join a criminal gang or something. Like, oh, if only we had stayed in
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 Washington with the other
Washington with the
gangs.
other gang, or I don't know,
um,
or if they were exposed to some sort of violence, like that weighs on you sometimes. I think just
anytime,
like any parent.
yeah, if you make a giant decision to move and come down and bring your kids, um, yeah, God forbid anything happens, it's very easy to blame the fact that you moved there, that it
Yeah.
happened, right? And that this wouldn't have happened if we had stayed home. And so it's definitely something that you think about for
Yeah,
sure.
people they meet, and we've been really blessed. Like our kids have made really wonderful friends here. They have really strong friend circles, but that's not a given. We could have moved them down here, and they could have become very lonely or isolated. Again, that can happen with any move anywhere, but thankfully that hasn't been the case. But I mean, parents worry about their kids no matter what, and I feel like that is.
And in this regard too, like we would not have moved them into a part of Ecuador, like that there's parts of Ecuador that are currently undergoing, a lot of chaos with crime that has risen up the last couple of years and stuff like that. And it's one thing if we had moved our kids to the slums of the major cities, right? Where again, we wouldn't have made that decision in the United States either. We wouldn't have moved our kids to dangerous parts of cities in the United States.
Yeah.
And so we still you still have that doubt though, that fear, that caution, right? That
Not even just a bad thing happening, but
yeah,
what are they potentially,
their
what
future.
opportunities would they not have that if we had stayed, maybe they would have had, or what careers will they not discover? And kind of have peace about that too, because I don't know, I think people are paralyzed by too many choices potentially anyway. And we see lots of doors potentially open for the kids here, but that's a very broad one. And those definitely creep up on me still in moments of uncertainty. Like, yeah,
Sure.
it's a major thing, and so how have we limited the kids, or what have we potentially exposed them to that could be harmful? So,
Yeah, like I said, every parent, that's what we do. We think about those things.
yes, and even though things are really great for our kids, and we talk often about how good it is being a child here. Now it can get harder, any Ecuadorian adult will say, like, the challenges of life for an adult is different, but they do a really good job making like a kind of a magical old-fashioned childhood for kids here, and so pretty awesome.
Mhm.
Okay, number 3. So this is one. I don't know if you struggle with this one the same way I do too, but anytime Ecuador shows up in like the international news, it's almost always for a bad reason. And I always get kind of defensive feeling like I have to justify. I mean, I go through these arguments in my head, like justifying why we moved here. Like, and I don't have to do that. No one asks me. No one points a finger at me and says, "Why did you move there?" But I have this sense that like I have to defend Ecuador and defend us, or because of Ecuador's problems. Even though everywhere has problems, and there's plenty of wonderful things that happen here that don't make the international news. I don't know. Do you get defensive for Ecuador?
Not necessarily defensive, but obviously I do want to dispel the rumors, and because the news, the media makes everything, a big deal. And for sure, there are big deal problems happening in Ecuador, but not as much because my reasons for being here, right, aren't necessarily what you see on the news, anyways. And we don't live in a context or an area where any of that stuff affects us to begin with. Um, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think I feel more of that than you do.
Sure, I can see that.
But yeah, just and when good things happen here, I want the world to like to know. I want to shout it from the rooftops. There's so many good things, but a lot of them aren't really like newsworthy things. Although they frequently do discover new species in the Amazon,
Yeah.
and chocolate was proven to have originated just south of us. I mean, that's pretty significant.
We have 2 Olympic gold medalists, right?
Two, three, I think. I'm
3. Oh,
pretty
yeah.
sure since we've been
Weightlifting
here.
too.
Yeah,
Weightlifting, cycling, and speed walking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
huge things for Ecuador. So, but yeah, a lot of times it's bad things, and again, no one asks me. No one's like, "Ha, what were you thinking?" You know, I just get that instinct that I have to defend Ecuador. So,
Sure.
poor little Ecuador.
Yeah. Number 4, potential feelings of guilt for being potentially better situated than a lot of our Ecuadorian friends and neighbors.
Yeah, this is a complex one, and it doesn't necessarily bring up feelings of doubt about being here, but it's a tricky thing to navigate because in some ways, like, I mean, there is, I'll use the word privilege, definite privilege in coming from a wealthier country down here that puts us in, like, we can automatically get jobs in the United States. Like, our remote jobs are based there. That's a privilege that not very many Ecuadorians have. At the same time, we're not nearly as well off as a lot of people assume we are.
Yeah.
We're constantly asked for loans. Not constantly, that's an exaggeration, but
It's frequent enough.
and we're literally not always able to or inclined to. There's, it's complicated, right? And so we walk that line of wanting to truly understand the difficulties faced by our neighbors, by our friends, and their economic realities, that there's a barrier between those realities and us. And we see that and trying to understand it.
Well, yes and no, because there's plenty of Ecuadorians today that make a heck of a lot more money
That's
than we do.
true. But I'm just saying in general.
Yeah, in general, for sure. There's some of that. But again, too, I think it's how you approach life, right? Like, we're very good about, I mean, we've got no issue with people coming to our home, and we have no issue going to their homes. And,
Yeah.
there's none of those kind of things.
No, and nothing that impacts
Um,
relationship, and relationship kind of trumps everything for us.
But yes, we've got a lot more opportunity having English, right, as the major trade language really of the world. And then having, opportunities or things that make it a lot easier for us versus, again, we're in the compo too, right? Where a lot of
The
the people we
countryside.
live around are, it's naturally harder in any part of the world where you live out in the country, right? Versus being in the cities. So
We always say that here there's like a much smaller margin, basically. And when we think we have, like, if something goes wrong, there's fewer safety nets to some extent. And as foreigners, I think we
well,
have more safety nets just intrinsically to some extent. Fewer in other ways, though.
well, I'd
Like
say fewer in other ways, yeah, because here they may not have government programs as robust and as wasteful as ones we may have in the West, but they have massive family and community networks, right? And so people aren't wanting the same way.
it's different.
It's
Yeah.
very different.
It's
Loneliness
comparison.
is really not a big deal here. I'm sure loneliness exists, of course, but really, I mean, they're so much better situated in so many ways, I would say.
Yeah, but not in all ways. And
Not
that's
in
just
all
the
ways,
reality of
for
it.
sure.
And even with like our kids, we moved here thinking that they would have better opportunities, and they will. They'll have fantastic opportunities here as bilingual people. But not all Ecuadorian kids will have the same the same opportunities in their own country. And so, um, Yeah, like I said, this is a very complex one and one we wrestle over in many ways, and there's lots of nuances to it. But by and large, it is something that can, we do struggle with sometimes in various contexts. Ultimately, like I said, relationship is what matters, and being generous and compassionate, those aren't.
And we're not here with any kind of complex, right? Like we didn't come in with like, oh, you poor Ecuadorians, let us help you,
No,
or
that's
anything weird like that.
we're also not here living like kings either, in
no,
like a little gated community. We just want to
yeah,
live life and
and we have
alongside community, and
very good community here.
yeah,
And they accepted us like members of the community, strange members of the community, but
eccentric.
eccentric. Yes.
But we feel very loved, and we love our community in return. So, all right, last one.
Okay, so this one, yeah, I can identify with this one for sure. So number 5, feeling defensive when we have problems, like when we've got issues here ourselves.
Because we chose to move here, and
Yeah.
and again, this isn't necessarily one that people literally look you in the eye and shrug their shoulders and say, well, you brought this on yourself. But we feel that even if it's not necessarily the case.
So these are very common responses we all have to making up things in our minds that people not necessarily have said or will say.
Because we have problems here, right? Like life is life. We've had,
Yes.
significant financial setbacks shortly after we moved here. We struggled to find work. Some of our kids are not always model student. I mean, there's just all the normal life stuff, but in this context, right?
Yeah.
Car problems. Oh my goodness, so many car problems. Watch our car video for more on that. And then anytime something goes wrong, when it's not just all, rosy and perfect, I have this sense that like I have to buck up and put a good face on it because we chose this. And so therefore, you can't be sad about the difficulties. Can't complain, that's for sure. But yeah, we do feel this one though, for sure. And I don't know if it'll ever get any less. And there's some truth. I mean, we did choose to be here, but I don't think that, extinguishes our need for compassion when hard things happen. And there's tons of good things about our life here that people don't, necessarily nod and say, oh, you chose this. Good job. Anything else, love?
No, I think more than anything, these are all just kind of doubts you have moving to a new situation and moving away from, anytime I think you would move away from friends or family, in any context, even in the United States, if you move from one state to another, right? You had problems and issues. I think you still have a lot of the same things. It obviously is a little more amplified being
Maybe it's just
in a new country.
being adults and having responsibilities, I guess. But
all that to say that none of those things stop us from wanting to continue our life here or change.
never have not. And not just out of like stubbornness either. Like we'll show them. it's we love life here. I think we make that clear in our videos. So grateful to be here. Doesn't mean there aren't complex emotions about it though.
True.
Sometimes, and I'm glad to be doing it with you for sure. So
like I'm having complex emotions right now. I'm both tired and hungry.
Oh dear. What are we going to do?
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching this video on doubts.
Deepest doubts.
There
Honesty.
we go. Yeah. Things that, I think will affect anyone in our situation to some extent, especially having a family. So, yeah. Thank you so much for watching this video. You can always find us at averagefamilyabroad.com.
On social media as well. Same name.
Yes, same name. Was it same bat time, same bat channel?
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I always fail you.
I know. That's Batman.
Pop culture. I gathered that.
Yeah.
I inferred it, but can't say for sure.
Batman here, though, on all the toys is Bat Leader. Not Batman. Bat Leader. So
because it's not licensed.
Chinese, unlicensed Chinese toys. But Bat Leader. But it is still Batman. And so. All right. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.